Novel Birdie, written by Tracy Lindenberg, details the story of a native Canadian Cree woman, Bernice Metuse, or Birdie as is her chosen spirit name. This is a story of a dark, deep, tragic past, how it has drove her into a sunken place, and how she eventually recovers by connecting to her Cree heritage and healing her mind and spirit. Bernice's trauma starts early in her life with a dysfunctional and straight-up neglectful household. Bernice had a somewhat absent mother, a father who abandons her, and an uncle who sexually abuses her, her Uncle Larry. Bernice's trauma can be analyzed using post-colonial theory. Bernice's cultural struggles are shown throughout this text and all of the struggles that her people face. One recurring theme in her story is the dependence on alcohol that her family has, including her. It is mentioned many times that there is always beer at the house at Little Loon, even if there isn't any food. One particular incident that involved alcohol occurred with her Uncle Larry. Uncle Larry, whiskey on his breath, snarled from the kitchen where he would be sitting alone, as always, with a bottle in front of him. She reached for something, anything to stop him. She didn't talk for a year after. The funny thing is, no one seemed to notice. Once in a while, when the drinks were starting to pour, someone referred to the Christmas pageant. This incident is one of the more brutal ones that occurs with Uncle Larry, where he rapes her having drank excessive amounts of alcohol. When North America was colonized by the Europeans, they traded alcohol for food and supplies from the natives. This has spawned a long-lasting trend of alcoholism among native peoples, and this is shown in the text as playing a role in Birdie's trauma. Another way that post-colonialism is shown in the story as having effect on Birdie's hard life is the exoticism of native women by white men. The old white man, smelling of used clothing store and vomit, had said to her, "You will never find a squaw who doesn't want to be found." The exoticism and fetishism of Native American women has played a negative impact on Birdie's early life and caused her to almost fear white men, and having it further taint her image of all men in general. The colonialism of her people is shown in different ways. A skinny, white, disheveled man hanging out at an Indian bar. How come they all have imperial names, she wonders. King George, the Empire Hotel, the Lord Tupper, the Royal? These names and these bars are where Birdie seems to lose herself in alcohol and married white men, which do nothing to heal her from her trauma and make her feel even more dirty in the morning. It is evident that colonialism has had an effect on all aspects of her early life. Bernice coping with her trauma can be best analyzed throughout the Marxist lens. Bernice and her family, as well as many of the native people living in North America, have been poor for their entire lives. Val mentions her family's lack of money on many occasions, as well as other basic rights that they lack as a people. No treaty rights, no health care, no money. She is third-generation poor. Many of the people on the reserve can't seem to pull themselves out of poverty because the capitalist system is stacked against the proletariat working class, and even further stacked against native people in particular. When Bernice gets placed at the Ingleson's house for her foster placement, she finally gets to know what it feels like not to go hungry, and to be able to indulge the way middle and even the upper class people do. She is not used to this kind of lavish lifestyle. Her unwillingness to accept material objects and instead live more piously despite her newfound wealth helped her feel like she was more in control of herself and her roots. Just in case she decided to dress inappropriately and head to the reserve, in case she wanted to rub everyone's noses in her good fortune, and in case Bernice had a hearing and she really wanted to deck herself out for it. The Inglesons treated Birdie like family, and they were ready to use their wealth to spoil her, including buying her new dresses. But in order for her to feel sane, Birdie tried to reject this wealth and live as close to her old life as possible. She soon runs away from the Inglesons and chooses to live by herself on the streets instead. It was like an endless hunt, except she had no map, no clues, and there was no discernible treasure. Just scraps in a shopping cart. Things a crow might collect. Nothing so heavy that she couldn't grab it quickly and run. Bernice found that she was most at peace when she was living on the streets and had nothing. She finds peace in being alone, and it helps distract her from the problems in her past. Bernice's healing journey can be explained through feminist theory. Bernice's close relationship with the women in her life have always been a source of comfort for her throughout all of the traumas that she has sustained in her life. She would frequently admire the close female bonds of her mother and her aunt, making reference to their bond many times, including when she says, her auntie saying with pure emotion, "Sister, promise me when I get older that you will pluck my chin." Maggie responding with all the seriousness of a bride at the altar, "I will, sister, I will." The connection that these women in her life share has had a big impact on Birdie and has caused her to form closer relationships with women than with men. The trauma that Bernice needs female support to heal from stems from the patriarchal objectification of women, mainly by her Uncle Larry. Now, instead, every Sunday, her mom and Aunt Maisie went to bingo while Uncle Larry watched her alone. It was that year that her Uncle Larry started pressuring her to do more than sit on his lap and feel her up. As Bernice grows older, more womanly, the sexual abuse by her uncle becomes worse and worse, and he continues to objectify her more and more. The constant objectification of Birdie has caused her to tend to gravitate more towards women and avoid men in her healing journey. This is most prominent when it comes to Bernice's actual healing of herself in the sacred tree of life. She pointed with her lips to the bedraggled family that she had formed in Gibson's. Just us four. That woman family, Lola, Val, and Skinny Frida, had followed her into the kitchen. Bernice formed such a close relationship with these women due to their shared trauma as a gender and their need for a family that won't abandon or objectify them. She used their womanly strength and support to help her heal and heal the tree as well. The deep-seated oppression of Birdie's people, including the alcoholism, the colonization, and the exoticism of her people, all play a large part in Birdie's troubled childhood. Her coping mechanisms involved living a better life with the rich Inglesons, and then rejecting their wealth and choosing to live as a homeless woman in the city. She heals from her trauma using the strong support system that she has built up with the other women in her life, and rejecting the objectification that has been placed on them as women. Birdie has overcome a lot throughout the course of this story, and her connection to her culture and her feminine power have made her a strong and resilient Cree woman.